The No Nonsense Roundtable. It's a weekly show broadcast on Rochester, New York's 50,000-watt iHeart radio station, News Radio Wham 1180. The host, Dom Geneva, interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. What you are about to hear is a recording of a previous broadcast with limited commercials. Now, here's host, Dom Geneva.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of your No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Geneva, your host here every Saturday at 10 a.m. And I'd like to remind you, all our previous shows are on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com. So go there, look at them, like and share, and that gives me a little bit of lift in my life. You can make me happy if you did that. So today I think it's for the third time, I have Ben Jacobs, who is the editor. Editor, you probably have more than editor to the title. You're general manager, editor. What is it there?
I'm officially the associate publisher and the editor of the Rochester Business Journal and the New York Daily Record.
And the Rochester Business Journal, I have to tell you, I am a fan of the Business Journal, and we're going to get into this because it's more, they send a weekly newspaper. Do you have to call it a magazine? The City Magazine wants to be called a magazine. I mean, it's a newspaper is not insulting you, right? If I say it's a newspaper. No,
we would say we're a brand. We have a newspaper. We have a website. We have e-newsletters. We have social media. We have a lot of channels. We're not just one thing.
Yeah, that's what I love about you guys, because we're going to be talking about this as far as like a business strategy goes. It's not just one thing. There's some people have. I call them broccoli farms. They do one thing and then that thing doesn't work or it falls out of favor, and that's all that they do, and that's how they end up in trouble. And that's not you guys. You guys have done a really good job bobbing and weaving, and we're going to get talking about that in a little bit. But my question I always ask, and I know we probably asked this before, but I just love it. Like how did you get here? Like when you were 10 years old, what did you want to do for a living?
I don't know that I remember exactly when I was 10 years old, but I know my interest changed a lot over the years. I'm sure I remember at one point when I was a kid, I definitely wanted to be a marine biologist, and that obviously didn't happen. But when I was going through high school, I was good at math, and I thought I would do something with math, and went to college with that idea, and then kind of lost interest in it. Didn't really want to do that for the rest of my life, and started thinking about what I would enjoy. And I wanted to. I was a big sports fan, so I thought maybe I'd want to be a sports journalist, and so I kind of pursued that path, and I did that for a while. I worked for the Democrat and Chronicle part-time while I was in college and for a little while afterward, and then I left to do sports reporting for a couple other Gannett papers in other cities, and then came back, and then I slowly started shifting into editing. And then in late 2016, early 2017, I took over the Daily Record first, and then RBJ as well.
Well, I mean that's kind of that story is kind of common. People don't know what they wanted to do, and they thought they wanted to do. I thought I was going to be an engineer. I went to St. Bonaventure for engineering. My first semester, I got a 178. Even if I graduated, I would have killed somebody by now. I shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have gotten accepted into that college for that. But so you work for the Democrat, but right, what was your first gig writing then? how do you get from here to there, from math to writing a story for the Democrat and Chronicle?
So I started just working part-time in the sports department, helping to take high school phone calls, and then eventually, cover some games, write some stories. Even though I was interested in math, I was always a good writer. I had what they call clean copy. I didn't misspell things or have grammatical mistakes. So people always told me early on in my reporting career that I'd be an editor eventually, and I didn't have an interest in that at that time. I said, no, I'm just going to stay a reporter. I like it.
So
they were right.
What was your favorite sport?
When I was growing up, it was baseball. I was a big baseball fan. I love Rochester and consider Rochester home, and we're going to talk more about why Rochester is a great place, but I'm not from Rochester. I'm from Massachusetts, so I was a diehard Red Sox fan growing up.
No. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable. We'll be back next week with another edition. I didn't know that. Jeez.
I don't follow baseball as closely. I don't follow sports in general as closely as I used to. Now that as I'm getting older, other things have become more important to me. But I still enjoy sports.
Well, I haven't shown you yet, but I'll show you my Yankee room next door, where I have signed a picture from Reggie Jackson and Joe DiMaggio and a bunch of guys there. But I don't know. That could be like what is a kryptonite that is a kryptonite that Superman is afraid of and whatever. Is that it? It could be kryptonite to you. I don't know.
I've got a lot of friends who are big Yankees fans. I don't have a problem with it. I try to enjoy the positive aspects of sports and not get into hating other teams or getting upset too much.
If you do turn around, you can see a Red Sox hat that I have on my shelf over there. And the irony of that is that I sponsored a Little League team when I had my dealership, and on the back of it is Genesee Valley Motors. So I was sponsoring a team that was a Red Sox team, but we've been there once. I have to tell you, the stadium is just a little jewel, and baseball is more than baseball. Yeah. As everybody, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the publication. And anybody who's not familiar with it, there's a paper that comes out every week, and the thing about the Rochester Business Journal is I see a couple of things in it. I see that it is your stories are accurate. They're not biased. They don't have Patty Singer said once to me. And I know Patty's does a lot of work for you, but she says, when I look at an article, I look at the adjectives. He says, when there's a lot of adjectives, I know that there's some type of an agenda there. I see your reporting being accurate, fair, concise, and multidimensional. You are big supporters of Rochester in a number of different ways.
Yeah, we really try to do a variety of things, and we're trying as much as we can to highlight good things that companies are doing, good things that business leaders are doing to help our community, to help their companies, to help their industry. We're writing about trends that people need to know about to succeed in their business. We're trying to help people make connections through our events, through our webinars that we hold, that we have data that we survey people for, and that we are able to give people insights into some things they might need to know for their business. So we're really trying to connect businesses with other businesses where they could create mutually beneficial arrangements. We're trying to highlight the positive work that's being done in Rochester, because there's a lot of good being done here. And we're trying to make it easier for businesses in Rochester to succeed and to get ahead.
Well, what I see about your reporting is it's supportive of Rochester without being a patsy, though, too. I mean, you hold people to task, when they need to be held to task. At least that's what my impression is.
Yeah, so certainly we're not just going to pretend everything's rosy.
Yeah.
There's certainly issues with Rochester. There's certainly bad news that we write about sometimes. But we don't try to harp on that. We don't try to say everything's a mess. There's no hope. Rochester's a great place. There are things that could be done better, but people are working on that. Yeah.
Well, and we're going to be talking. We're about ready to head into a break, but we're going to be talking more about that when we get into that break. But we'll talk about the good stuff and some of the maybe some of the stuff that people need to know about. Maybe they don't know about. But we're going to be talking about that right after this break. This is Dom Genova from my friend Jack Greco at Jack Greco Furniture. I'd invite you to go see Jack Greco if you're looking to buy furniture right now. But beyond that, I'd invite you to go see Jack Greco if you're ever going to buy new furniture. And why? You can look and dream and plan how exactly you'd like your furniture. The type of wood, construction is half the fun. It's going to be reflective of your taste, and quite frankly, you'll want to pass it down as an heirloom. Can't say that about the big box stores. Go see Jack. This is Dom for my friend John Myers and his new company, Life Interviews.
I'm going to ask you to go look at the website he has, Life Interviews. There's no T in it, Interviews, where you'll see a fantastic presentation on what they do. And what they do is create a video legacy for you to pass down to future generations. More than just getting your DNA, you can pass down your story. Go see, you'll be amazed. It's a great idea, but do me a favor. Wait till the end of the No Nonsense Roundtable.
Well, welcome back. You're listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable. We are here with a really neat fella. I've known Ben Jacobs now for I guess the first time you were on the show was 2019. We're heading into our seventh year now, which is really kind of cool. It's 300 and something shows, and I get to meet people, and they come in to my office, and we spend some time together and get to know each other. And Ben is the associate publisher and editor. I'd like to get the titles right because the titles are very important. Associate editor and associate publisher and editor of the Rochester Business Journal, which is actually a lot more than it sounds. It's not just a business journal, but it's sort of a cultural thing that you've carved and morphed and whatever. But for this segment, let's talk about the journalism of what you do. Let's discuss some stories lately that you've been concentrating on, good and bad, and things that we're talking to thousands of people here. Tell us what maybe we don't know.
Yeah, so we have a small team, but we are really plugged in. We have a lot of connections with business leaders, and one thing that I always enjoy that shows how much the business community respects us and trusts the work that we do and wants to be a part of what we're doing is we will frequently have organizations reach out to us and say, hey, we've got some news coming. We just want to give you a heads up of what it is so you can be ready for it. You can have somebody available. You can talk to people. Sometimes we'll talk to people before the news happens so that we can be ready with a story. And that's really neat that we have that level of trust with business leaders in the area that we can use our resources effectively because we know what's going on. We're having conversations with key people in the community.
Well, tell me a couple of things that you have going on right now. I know there's a story with this Monroe thing and what's happening at Webster and whatever. So let's go into some specifics.
Yeah. So that story that you mentioned has been ongoing for quite a while now. Catherine Mott, who's a restaurateur with several properties in the area, and was accused of some fraudulent activity, a lot of back and forth in the courts, ultimately pled guilty late last year. Now some of the properties are in the process of being sold. And it's one of those stories that, like we talked in the last segment, we like to promote the good news that's happening and talk about the good things people are doing, but we're not going to ignore when something negative is happening and needs to be covered because it's important. People need to know about it. And our team, primarily Bennett Loudon and Kevin Klubja, have done a wonderful job keeping track of this story, following all the court filings, talking to all the parties involved, and really giving the community the news they need to know about what's happening here and what might be happening with these properties, because people use these properties. I know we published a story recently about Monroe's, and my reporter actually got some phone calls from readers saying, what's going to happen to my wedding? Yeah.
Well, it's journalism. Yeah, I mean, it's journalism with a standard, and you can tell that when you read the article. So, so what else is going on? What are the other big stories, your current events and things that you've been working on, or things that we're going to be hearing more about in the near future?
Yeah. So obviously, a lot of things are in limbo right now. We focus mostly on Rochester, but a new administration just took over, and there's a lot of uncertainty with all the things that are happening there. So I think a lot of businesses are really trying to figure out how this is going to affect them. And we're trying as much as we can to provide some context that our local businesses need to know how they can navigate these changes that are happening. So that's one thing we're definitely putting some time and resources into, is just trying to help people understand what an executive order that's been signed might mean for their business or for their industry, because not everybody's as familiar with these things as everybody else. So that's important on a national level. Locally, there's a lot going on. We've got a huge amount of tech activity going on in the Rochester area that we need to keep following and telling people about, because that's really a big part of the future of Rochester, and what's going to make us continue to be successful is capitalizing on that tech expertise that we have as a region, with the businesses we have there, the students we have from the universities.
Well, the other thing about your newspaper is that it's not all business. I mean, I really enjoy Scott Petoniak with his sports writing. I mean, he's I don't care what he's reporting on. He constructs his sports reporting so it has to do with humans interacting with sports. It's more of a human interest story that he has every week. How did you get a hold of him? I mean, how is he working for you? I mean, that's quite a get.
Yeah, so Scott and I have actually known each other for a long time. He was obviously a columnist at the Democrat and Chronicle, and I was working in the sports department there, so we knew each other since about 2000 when I started working at the DNC. And he was an award-winning sports columnist for the DNC for a long time, and then ultimately left the DNC. And before I even joined RBJ, the previous leadership team reached out to Scott and said, "Hey, we don't have a full-time position where we could have a full-time sports columnist, but we'd love to have you write for us," and worked on an arrangement to have Scott write once a week, which I've maintained since I've taken over as editor. And I agree. I think it's a great addition. You wouldn't normally see necessarily sports columnists in a business journal.
Right.
But the thing is, we write for business people, but they're also just people, and they have other interests.
Right.
So
That's one of the things I admire about you, because there are a lot of companies that are just unidirectional. And like I said before, so you have a broccoli farm. There's only so much broccoli you're going to sell. You're better off if you have a farm that has a number of different things that you might be interested in, and that's what it is. And the other thing is, you're gracious enough to let me write an article every once in a while. I want to have a particularly interesting guest on, and as a guest at the table, and more than likely we'll have one in your publication about this show. and people can get a synopsis, and we would put a QR code so you can listen to the show, whatever. You let me do that, and I really appreciate that. But you have some great contributors. I mean, Bob Duffy's contributing all the time, right?
he is. Yeah, Bob has been a regular contributor for a long time, and he's a key member of the business community running the Chamber of Commerce. His insights are of interest to a lot of people, and we try to give people information from a variety of sources that they might not otherwise have access to. So these columns that we publish provide additional reporting that we couldn't necessarily do on our own, because like I said, we're a small team and we do great work with the team that we have, but a column from a Bob Duffy or a column from you or a column from any of our other contributors provide additional insights and information about the community that our readers value and enjoy.
Yeah, it's a proverbial, it's the box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get from week to week. But I respect you for that. So when we come back for the break, we're going to be talking about, some of the other things you do to promote Rochester. Well, I want to touch base with you with this idea that I have. We're just going to talk a little brainstorming about my view as well as your view about Rochester, what a great place this is, maybe what some things we should think about doing to promote that. And we'll be talking about that, like I said, after this news break. Well, welcome back. We're talking to Ben Jacobs, who is the associate publisher and editor of the Rochester Business Journal. But the Rochester Business Journal is a lot more than a business journal. I say it's a multi-dimensional entity that uses different different strategy, tactics, and media. And one of the things that I'm tickled by, I'm actually tickled by, you always have, the best of this or the best of that, and you're giving awards and pats on the back to people and icons and stuff. I mean, let's talk about some of that stuff, because one of the things I learned years ago, and we talked about this before the show, is that there was a guy that wrote an article in the Harvard Business Review, and it was called Marketing Myopia. And he said that a lot of companies like the railroads don't really understand what business they're in. They thought they were in the railroad business. Well, they're not in the railroad business. They're in the transportation business. So if you morphed, understood exactly what your business was, well, then you could adapt accordingly. And I give the example sort of like, Kodak, thought seemed to be thinking that their product was pictures on pieces of paper. And people were always going to want pictures on pieces of paper. But no, it's imaging. And that's what your business is. So you have to morph. IBM was the number one manufacturer of desktop computers in the early 80s. They don't do that anymore. Okay, and you look at same thing with Apple. Apple was they were doing computers and whatever. No, it's personal. It's personal communication. So they morphed, and I'm looking at what you've done, and these awards and the presentations and whatever. Let's talk a little bit about that, because that is your understanding. It's communication and engagement, which really seems to be your product.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think people would look at a organization like the Rochester Business Journal and might say our business is publishing or being a newspaper. But you're right, that's not our business. Our business is connecting people.
Yeah.
Data, insights, information. How we deliver that, it's important. Different people like it different ways, but that's the delivery method is not the product.
Yeah.
The information, the insights, the connections we can provide people, that's the product.
Yeah, and that's why I'm tickled by the whole thing. It's like we were talking before the show. The Red Wings baseball. You get to know Naomi, and they understand that their product seems to be an entertainment for you and your family to enjoy in a wonderful setting at a reasonable price, and it happens to be baseball. It's not. I venture a guess that there are more non-baseball fans at a Red Wings game than there are baseball fans. That somebody has to see baseball. No, it's just a wonderful experience. It's a wonderful experience. They absolutely get it. They absolutely get it. Who gets it? Like Wegmans gets it. I mean, you go. It's an experience. You understand. The prices. I don't know if the prices are better or not than Tops. But I like. I don't want to insult Tops, but I love Wegmans, and that's the thing. You understand what your product is. So let's talk about some of these things. I mean, you have the different events and awards that you have. And how do you pick out which one is done what time of the year?
So for the most part, a lot of these events have been around for a long time. So we try to keep them consistent around the same time of year. When we're deciding whether to launch a new event or product or anything that we might do that we haven't done in the past, we just look at our overall schedule for the year and try to make sure we're spacing things out appropriately, where we're not doing too much of the same thing at the same time, which can get tricky sometimes. Like you said, we do a lot of things, and we try not to overwhelm ourselves or the people we're working with doing too much at once. But we feel like we manage it pretty well to keep a consistent.
Well, let's talk about specifics. Some of the things that you have, because maybe our listeners wouldn't be immediately familiar with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a number of awards events that are in-person events where we accept nominations, people apply, we have judging, we select the honorees, we announce who the honorees are going to be, and then we'll have an event where we honor them, whether it's a breakfast or a lunch or a dinner. We produce videos on the honorees so that the people attending can learn about why these people were selected. We'll hand them an award. There's networking, photo opportunities. So we do a number of those throughout the year. We have our next one coming up is Healthcare Heroes at the end of next month, or at the end of February, I should say, because it's.
Yeah. So what? Let's go through a number of them just off the top of your head.
So we have
just rattle them off.
Healthcare Heroes in February. We have our best companies to work for in New York, which we actually hold that event in Albany because it's a statewide program. We have Women of Excellence that we do in May. We have our financial leaders and our Excellence in Law event. We do a reader rankings event, that's actually voted on by our readers, so we don't judge that ourselves. We have leaders in construction and real estate. We have 40 under 40. We have our Icon Honors event. So some of them are industry specific. Some of them are where people are in their career. Some of them are, ones for women. So we have a variety of ways that we can identify people who are really doing good work in Rochester, which is like we talked about before. We really want to highlight the good work that's being done, the people who are driving success in the Rochester region by helping their companies get ahead, by helping other people in the community get ahead, like you said, lift each other up, help everybody succeed,
right?
So the community improves.
Right, as John Kennedy said, "Rising tide lifts all boats." So I admire you doing that, and I think that's a lot. Like one of the reasons for the show is that people just aren't as aware as they should be, and this touches on something that's near and dear to my heart, and we're going to be taking a break soon. But there's something that I realized a little while ago, and it came to light when I was driving to see my daughter in South Bend, and that is you pass by these communities, and we have a really great quality of life here. We have our problems, but we have a really great quality of life, and you start looking at the climate and the housing and the cultural assets that we have, and I have heard so many anecdotal stories of people saying that they've moved here, and then they realize what a great place it is after they move here. And Bob Duffy was saying this at my last interview with him was just a few weeks ago. He said the president of Kodak said, well, this is the hardest place to get somebody to move to and the hardest place to get somebody to move from, because once they get here, they realize what a great place this is. Of course, we have our problems. Everybody's got their problems. There's always some contamination and everything. I got that. But the mere fact that we say that people move here and they're all of a sudden surprised how great it is means me as a marketing guy, somebody bought the product already and they're surprised the product is as good as it is. So we need to do something, and we'll talk about this after the break. I have some suggestions myself, something to get ourselves higher in that funnel, that marketing funnel that makes our wonderful assets a buying reason, the reason to buy. There's a why buy in any marketing thing. Why buy, and promote ourselves as this wonderful island, this quality of life destination that we have. That if you're on Long Island and you're looking to move to work for Constellation Brands or Paychecks, you look at Rochester and you look at that and says, "Wow, that's really kind of a cool place. I want to live there." And I have a specific idea for that. We'll discuss that a little bit, after the break.
This is Dom for my friend John Myers and his new company, Life Interviews. I'm going to ask you to go look at the website he has, Life Interviews. There's no T in it, Interviews, where you'll see a fantastic presentation on what they do. And what they do is create a video legacy for you to pass down to future generations. More than just getting your DNA, you can pass down your story. Go see, you'll be amazed. It's a great idea, but do me a favor. Wait till the end of the No Nonsense Roundtable.
Well, welcome back. We're talking to Ben Jacobs, who's the associate publisher and editor of the Rochester Business Journal, which is much more than a weekly newspaper. They are journalists reporting on what you need to know, good and bad, about business, the business community, and Rochester all told. I mean, some of these events that you have nothing to do with like business. I mean, it's people.
Yeah, I mean. Some of the events we do definitely are focused specifically on certain kinds of business, but a lot of them are just on people and what they're doing and how they got to where they are.
Yeah. So one of the things we were talking about before the break was this idea the concept of Rochester. Rochester's got this wonderful quality of life that I think people are unaware of until they get here. And if somebody comes here and they're surprised at how nice the place is, that's like buying a product and realizing a benefit that it has after you bought it, but you bought it already. Okay, so my thing is that we need to do something in a comprehensive way to join people together, to come with a message that Rochester has this great quality of life. So it's on people's minds. It's on your selector list. It is on the top of the funnel, top of the mind, that when you hear about Rochester, it does ring a positive bell with you, because right now, my perception, I haven't done any formal marketing or research on this. My feeling is that people from outside of the area have a tendency of thinking this is a Rust Belt, dreary, upstate town, and we're not. We have this wonderful quality of life. You have a great culture in music, performing arts, museums. The property values are reasonable. The schools, yes, we have a problem with some of the schools, but a lot of the schools are very, very good. You don't have fires, floods, tornadoes, or hurricanes, generally speaking. You have all the water that you want. All the water that you want, which is like going to be the new, that's like the new gold, is, the new oil is water. And you can live. You can live. And so my thought is that we need to find some way of promoting this, wrapping it around something. There's different strategies and tactics, but when I see as a marketing guy that people are thinking that this is a dreary, rundown, so it's not. It's just not true. It's just not true. We need to do something in a positive way, and so that's why if people go to my website, I have rochesterhonors.org. Go take a look at that. It's just a thought. It's just a thought. It's strategy and tactics. The strategy is to get people looking at Rochester in more than just garbage plates and lake effect snow, and promoting the region for the great stuff it is. I mean, my thought off the top of my head was, sort of like tech hub and all that jazz, because we are a tech hub, and the universities and these smaller startup companies, to your point, are very important. I mean, it's like the mayor says, we used to be a company town. Now we're a town of companies, which is right up your alley.
Yeah, and I think Rochester has a really varied landscape of what there is to do here. So it's not just that there's a lot of stuff to do, but whatever your interests are, you can find something that you enjoy and really enjoy your life here, because I think there's, like you said, there's so much outdoors activity, there's sporting events, there's great restaurants for a city our size. Oh,
absolutely.
The restaurant scene is amazing in Rochester. There's performing arts. There's really anything you could want to do. And I agree with you. I know most people I know who in Rochester love Rochester, but there's either a misperception outside of Rochester about what it is, or just a lack of awareness. Some people don't even know where Rochester is. I
totally agree with that. And as being a young fellow working for a big company, Chrysler, I worked for Chrysler for 17 years. Total bureaucracy, big company. They had different regions you could go to or be sent to. And you're looking at some of them and you go, oh, I don't want to, I hope they don't send me to, like Detroit, or you're looking at some, I don't want to belittle other localities, but like, oh man, I hope they don't send me so-and-so. And if you're a young person and you're looking at a job offering, and you're looking at Constellation Brands, or you're looking at paychecks, it would be better. I'm not saying that it's a deal breaker. It would be better if you looked at the word Rochester and it gave you a positive connotation, rather than you either not knowing or assuming something bad. it would just be better off.
Yeah, I agree. And I know there's a number of people, and you're one of them, a number of people trying to improve the perception people have of Rochester. And we are trying to be part of that as much as we can, working with some of these people in the community to try to make people more aware of how good a place Rochester is to live and to work and to run a business, be a leader in a business, raise a family, enjoy your life. It's really, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Well, and that's why you guys, to use my statement, there's people that get it and there's people that don't get it, and I've been talking to, some people around that go, well, downtown, I got that. I got that. Downtown needs some work. Thank God they're doing something, the corner of Clinton and Maine finally. I mean, I remember coming up here in 1993 and looking at that corner and going, oh my God.
That's been an eyesore for a long time.
Oh, gee, it's like it's giving you a feeling, an impression. And for better or worse, it gives you a visceral impression that, that things aren't all that good. But now that's getting fixed. Okay. I understand, the big pink hotel, I understand that. But in the meantime, there's plenty of other things when you look at this as a region that overcome those, like I said, nothing's perfect. Yes. It's like Yogi Berra says. He says, if the world was perfect, it wouldn't be. Right. So you look at that. Do you have a favorite yogiism, by the way? Yeah, you're a baseball fan.
I think if you come to a fork in the road, take it.
Mine is nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. And there's actually a reason for that. We're getting off topic now, but there's a reason for that. He used to frequent this restaurant, and when everybody got there, when everybody started going there, then the locals didn't go there anymore.
Right.
So it was too crowded. But with that, we have about another minute left. Let's tell everybody how to, or explain to everybody how to either subscribe or see you online, or let's do this little retail thing. How about that?
Certainly. So our website is rbj.net, so you can go there to subscribe to our print publication, our digital publication. We have e-newsletters that you can sign up for. We have social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, X. You can follow us on any of those channels. We have a premium subscription that we offer for people who really want data, our Leads and Data Center. That really gives you access to a lot of information and contact information for business people in the Rochester area, which is a really valuable offering. We think that's really something that sets us apart.
Well, we are about ready to close out another session here, but I really want to thank you for coming in. Like I said, third time. It's very nice of you, and I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Not of the Red Sox. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the Yankees, the Red Wings, and the Rochester Business Journal, which is more than just a business journal. So I appreciate what you are, what you do, and we seem to have a lot in common. I really do appreciate knowing you. So until next week, it's the No Nonsense Roundtable, 10 o'clock Saturdays. Listen in.
Thanks for listening. Tune in every Saturday from 10 to 11 on News Radio Wham 1180. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.